Round two.
Hey now, welcome to Calling All Gamers Episode 4, Capcom Round 2. I'm David,
It's Christopher.
and here we go again, talk about Capcom, one of the most important, iconic video game companies in existence. I'm going to start off where I left off last week, Capcom in the 90s. Now, Capcom in the 90s, it was a golden age of video gaming. Got the Sega Genesis, the Super Nintendo going at it, and the home consoles. Capcom and other companies consistently releasing great arcade hits. It was a whole new slew of IPs, and us gamers got the benefit of it. And of course, I'm going to start off with Street Fighter II, released in 1991. This game was released in arcades on the CPS-1 in the summer of 1991. It single-handedly brought forth like a new coming of arcades, like a rebirth of the arcade scene. This whole fighting game craze, I think, is still even lasting today. Thanks to that Street Fighter game. Like Mega Man that came before it, Street Fighter will eventually get a bunch of sequels, spin-offs. However, unlike Mega Man, Street Fighter 2 would get various upgrades and tweaks, such as Street Fighter 2 Championship Edition, Street Fighter 2 Turbo or Hyper Fighting, Super Street Fighter 2, Super Street Fighter 2. The list goes on and on. Like the last Street Fighter 2 to come out was HD Remix, and that was like how long ago, Chris?
HD remix? For which one? For Street Fighter 3 online? Street Fighter 2? Oh, the HD remix? That was like around when the PS3 came out, so I want to say like 2007.
Yeah, 2007. We're talking about 1991 to 2007. Over like 16 years worth of remixes and upgrades. That's the kind of impact Street Fighter 2 have. It will go on to sell 10 million copies on SNES alone, and that's quite a feat. For a non-Nintendo game to sell 10 million copies, that's something right there, especially for 1991 standards.
It's usually Mario games that'll sell, but to make a fighting game in general selling more copies maybe than a Mario game, that's pretty impressive. That's I think Capcom's highest grossing game until maybe Resident Evil 2 came out.
Yeah, that's something. Okay, going on to the spring of 1993. That year, Capcom actually went out of their comfort zone. They actually developed an RPG. Yeah, that's right, Breath of Fire. Now, I've never played Breath of Fire. I seen my friend in high school play Breath of Fire 3 on the PS1. I couldn't really get into it because at the time it just seemed like a regular RPG. But when I looked into it, it actually did some kind of unique things. Like, for example, your characters were able to transform into dragons. It consistently had the same cast throughout all of each game, so it wasn't like Final Fantasy where it's a whole different thing going on. It was actually one long continuous journey, so to say, and it totally changed things. It totally changed how the player did battles. That was something that I later found out. Breath of Fire would have a few sequels. The last one was released in November 2002 on a PS2. Oh yeah, and here's a little bit of trivia that I barely found out. That the first Breath of Fire was actually localized by Squaresoft back in 1993. It wasn't done by Capcom. Yes, Capcom felt like they didn't have enough experience yeah, not the whole RPG, but they did have experience localizing a long game like that. Um, it did get a remake on a Game Boy Advance with updated graphics and a slightly changed sound, but a lot of people do believe that the Super Nintendo version is superior because it had a much more vibrant color scheme and the music wasn't as bad. Like the Game Boy Advance, for some reason, had some tinny music. Now, I don't mind saying that I've never played any of the Breath of Fire games, but I would be willing to actually download one if it was released on the Virtual Console or if they remade it and released it on PSN. So if anyone from Capcom is hearing me, please, consider this. I am a willing buyer if you could do that.
I am also a willing buyer, but there has not been no other ports or HD or collection of Breath of Fire since PlayStation 1 or 2.
The last one was released in Part 2, and no, there has not been any. I don't think there's been any collections as far as I know. Okay, going back to the arcade scene in late 1993. Now, the thing about the CPS one is that it got a lot of bootlegged versions of Street Fighter 2, such as the Rainbow Edition, so on and so forth. It was kind of weird, and that kind of hurt Capcom's arcade business. So they went ahead and developed the CPS 2. Not too much different. It had a slightly faster processor, and it used a Q sound chip instead of a Yamaha. Instead of the Yamaha YM2151. This unit was mostly meant to combat bootleggers, but that really didn't stop them, since in 2001 they figured a way out to find a way around that, and somehow, well, if you guys look at MAME right now, you could basically emulate Street Fighter Alpha. But nonetheless, like the CPS 1, a lot of titles got their start on a CPS 2. One fine example is X-Men Children of the Autumn. Now a lot of people kind of just toss X-Men Children of the Autumn like under the bus or whatever, because it was like really early or wasn't really refined. But the thing is that the X-Men Children of Autumn's gameplay, would be reused for Marvel Superheroes the following year, and eventually would be reused for X-Men vs. Street Fighter. That kind of gameplay is actually still being used today by more recently Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3. Both Marvel Superheroes and X-Men will get home ports on the Sega Saturn and Sony PlayStation in '97. However, if you ask me, I would get the Sega Saturn versions just because it's a little bit more closer to the arcade port or to the arcade version. Let's see. Probably gonna have to cut this part out. Okay, this would eventually lead up to X-Men vs. Street Fighter in September 9th, 1996. The idea of a crossover fighting game between X-Men and Street Fighter was like, back in the day, was like totally blew my mind. You don't know how happy it made me. Right now it's like nothing because we get Marvel vs. Capcom and Marvel, and Mortal Kombat versus DC. But back in the day, it was really something new. The cool thing was that the tag gameplay that was totally revolutionary at the time. You could switch between characters during the match, totally changing your tactics and how you play the game. Like its predecessor, this too saw home releases on the PlayStation and Saturn, but unlike the last game, the US will only see a crappy PlayStation version with the tag system removed and a lot of animation cut out. They would go ahead and do the same thing up until Marvel vs. Capcom, but that's a whole different thing. I think we should totally do a Capcom versus episode one of these days. Yeah, Capcom like X versus Street Fighter, Marvel versus Capcom, Capcom versus SNK. We should, yeah, we're thinking of doing that. That would be interesting to see. All right, I got no idea. It would be something interesting. Ooh, Darkstalkers got its start on the CPS too. In this April of '95, I believe. This game puts monsters together in a one-on-one fighting match with fighting mechanics similar to X-Men, however with a cartoony look, and that gives it a kind of a light-hearted feel. Like Street Fighter, it too will have like a lot of sequels and home releases. You could download this game on the PSN or XBLA. And if you're like me, you can actually track down physical copies for the PSP and Sega Dreamcast, and also the PS1 if you're interested. You have anything to add?
For Darkstalkers, just support the whole Resurrection.
Cool. Now, I'm not as big a Resident Evil fan as Chris, so I'm just gonna touch upon a few things, and I think I'm gonna let Chris go ahead and take it over from here. But all right, Resident Evil was released in 1996, originally conceived as a remake of a Famicom title, Sweet Home. Shinji Mikami reworked the game as Resident Evil, a game we know today. He reworked it as an awesome survival horror game that challenges the player with puzzles and item management. The awkward control also adds a bit of panic for first-time players. Fixed cameras too. Of course, it was just a polygon character against a 2D backdrop. A lot of rendering. But that also made it unique. Resident Evil, by today, is the best-selling franchise for Capcom. It has sold over 50 million units. It has many sequels, spin-offs, a movie franchise, and releases and re-releases on almost every platform. After the success of Resident Evil and its sequel, Resident Evil 2, Capcom started to shift their focus on home consoles. They went from arcades to home consoles at that point, and with my research, I kind of gradually saw this happen. It kind of is a little bit sad, but also I believe it was necessary, because by that time, the arcade started its gradual decline to what it is today. Anyway, I'm gonna hand it over to Chris to talk more about Capcom.
So we're still on the subject of Capcom. So David just left off on Resident Evil. So I actually want to talk about Resident Evil. I heard from the grapevine that they were gonna remake Resident Evil 2 with brand new graphics, a whole new engine. That'd be pretty cool. That's my favorite Resident Evil game of all time. I always debate which is my favorite game of all time. It's either Resident Evil 2 or Metal Gear Solid for the PlayStation. It's a tiebreaker. I don't know, but to me, I just love Resident Evil 2. But from what I heard, they wanted to remake Resident Evil 2, brand new graphics. They said they wanted to not bring it on a digital catalog. They just want to bring it out on an actual disc. So that'd be pretty cool. I'd be really excited about that. Just like how they did with the original Resident Evil that came out on the GameCube. I'd love to see that. But they also teased the Resident Evil 7 image. And then there goes David's Ultra Combo text message. But I also want to talk about Evil. If you guys didn't partake on that, if you guys partake at the actual competition, or if you just watched highlights of Evo. Evo is like the biggest fighting game championships for video games or fighting video games. So last week was Evo 2013, and I just want to talk about the roundup for that. There's so many games that played. There was King of Fighters, Super Street Fighter 4 Arcade Edition, Injustice was a new one, and Melee came back to that competition. And they also had like Blaze Blue and Persona Arena, which is another great game. But I just want to talk about like the main one. So to me, the main one that I was watching was Injustice, because it was a new game, new fighting game to that tournament. At Injustice, the main guy that won was VXGEMP KDZ. He used Superman. Yeah, he beat Crazy DJT88 against Green Lantern and Doomsday. He actually, honestly, he had no chance because his Superman was really zoning him pretty well. But the Green Lantern was better than his Doomsday. The Doomsday was trying to rush it, and I think he got like the best of him because he was trying to just, he was just predictable and readable on all his moves. So that was a pretty good one. I saw the last fight for that one, so Superman winning that one. I was kind of hoping there was Nightwing involved in there, but there was no Nightwing. And then for King of Fighters, another good one was King of Fighters 14. I think everybody knows A.S. Reynolds. He won with his Kaio, Benimaru, and Chin versus Wu. With his Ryu, Takumi, and Kim. I want to. A.S. Reynolds is an American fighter, so I think he hails from California. And then Wu, I think was either from it could be from either Vietnam or he was from Korea. I'm not really sure, but at least an American one for King of Fighters. But then we're going to Marvel vs. Capcom. Usually the Americans dominate that series more than the Japanese or Koreans. And of course EMP Flocker won with his Zero, Virgil, and Hawkeye against Justin Wong. Everybody knows Justin Wong. Usually Justin Wong's playing Street Fighter 4. He plays King of Fighters. Heck, he even plays Injustice, but I don't think he's that great on that one. I think his bread and butter is Street Fighter with his Rufus. But he entered this year again with Marvel vs. Capcom. He lost. He came second on that one, but hopefully he can win it next year. But he came pretty far on this one with his Wolverine, Storm, and Akuma. And the last one I want to talk about is Super Street Fighter 4 Arcade Edition. My favorite fighter was playing. It's not American, he's Japanese. It's Tokido Murderface with his really aggressive Akuma. I guess at the last, it was 2 sets he had to win, so he lost those 2. So he won second. But it was Chen, who uses Gen. He's from Indonesia, so he won. He has a really good Gen, but I think Tokido could have won that. I think Tokido got a little sloppy at the end. He was overwhelmed. He got a little desperate, and from that, Xian just saw all his moves and took counterattack and just saw the opportunity and won that. That's pretty much the Evo roundup for pretty much all the games and all the people who won. But now I just want to talk about the things that they also announced at Evo, which is I kind of figured out. I kind of knew that they were gonna bring back another version of a Street Fighter. You know how we have like first we have Street Fighter 4, Super Street Fighter 4, and then Super Street Fighter 4 Arcade Edition. We have another one. It's called Ultra Street Fighter 4. But this time everything's balanced out again. 6 more. I think it's 6 new levels or 2 new levels. I'm not really sure. Might be 6 because I think they said 6 new levels, 5 new fighters. They only announced 4 fighters out of the 5. And the 4 fighters is Hugo, Poison, Elena, and Rolento. Hugo comes from Street Fighter 3, and so does Elena. Poison is not really a fighter. She just originally came out in Final Fight. But the funny thing about Poison, she's actually a transvestite. She's a hooker. She's a transvestite hooker. But yeah, she came out there. But her first actually game that she fought in was in Street Fighter Cross Tekken, and then another appearance that she came out in was in Street Fighter 3 on Hugo's introduction on his backdrop. But she's in the game. She looks exactly how she looks like in Street Fighter Cross Tekken, plays a similar way. So does Hugo, and Lena's in there, which is pretty cool. But you know what? I think they got kind of lazy, Capcom. They just kind of rendered over the characters that were on Street Fighter Cross Tekken and just put them into Street Fighter 4. They just kind of poured them over. You could have gave me Sean, you could have gave me Alex, you could have gave me Q, you could have gave me Necro, you could have gave me all the guys from Street Fighter 3, like a good amount. Shoot, Urian. How come you guys didn't give? Okay, I hope the next character they're gonna announce later down the line. David thinks there might just be a whole new character. It could be a whole new character, but I'm thinking either it could be Alex, Sean, or Urian. I don't know, but a whole new fighter could be good for me. Yeah, so yeah, that's kind of a copy. Or it might be Gil, but I wouldn't want Gil in the game because I hate Gil. But, oh, another thing they also announced was another character for Killer Instinct, but we already knew it was going to be Glacius. But you know what? When we first saw Glacius at E3, when they gave like a little quick teaser on him, he didn't look like what he looks like now. His final, his like actual way he looks. I think that was his concept art. But the way he looks is just kind of more alien. You know, he has well, what's the whole backstory on him?
It's a kind of different depending on your source. I know he crash lands in the Arctic. Ultratech takes his ship and kind of holds it for ransom, and they tell him if he wants his ship back, he's got to fight in the Ultratech tournament or whatever. And the reason that they have him in a tournament is so they could test the powers of Cinder. And that's the only thing I know. I don't know anything else about him other than he's an alien, and that they just have him there so they could test Cinder's abilities.
On this one, he has a endoskeleton, or he's like it's not an exoskeleton. Yeah, so he pretty much is like puts himself inside a liquid crystallized ice body. So that's pretty much it. But he looks pretty sick. I'm not gonna lie. He looks like he's gonna be super overpowered with his long zoning reaches, his projectiles. He looks, yeah. He's completely different from KI1 and KI2. So he looks OP'd. He might be balanced out later, but we don't know yet. But the next character they teased was Chief Thunder. Chief Thunder. Don't know how he looks like right now. They just kind of showed his tomahawk. But I guess they might announce him on the next Gamescom or Tokyo Game Show, which is Gamescom is around August, so that's kind of right around the corner. So. Oh, and so I was still talking about Ultra Street Fighter 4, which is cool. That doesn't come out until next year. And if you own Super Street Fighter 4 Arcade Edition, you could just download that for $14.99. Or if you want to buy the actual disc case, the actual jewel case, and have the disc and everything, it's going to be $39.99. Knowing me, I'm a huge Capcom guy and a huge Street Fighter fan. I'm going to buy the actual physical copy. And just keep it part of my collection because I have a pretty good Street Fighter library going along. And that's all I pretty much got for the roundup for Evo. And San Diego Comic-Con is coming up pretty soon. Well, I won't be going, of course, because tickets went out like pretty fast. But pretty much talk about a roundup for San Diego Comic-Con, and I'll probably even talk about the other announcements that they're gonna announce at Comic-Con, which I'm hearing is they're gonna announce X-Force movie, and the director of Kick-Ass 2 is gonna take over that project. So I'm pretty excited about that. I'm a huge X-Force fan for like Deadpool, Wolverine. What is Psylocke? Yeah, I'm a fan of X-Force. And actually, I went to go see Pacific Rim last week. All right. I won't give any spoilers, but think of to me, it's like Power Rangers versus Monster, or versus Godzilla in a way. I have a friend that called it Power Rangers on acid. It was pretty cool. I liked it.
Didn't Kojima say something like, an otaku would be doing a disservice to himself if he doesn't see this movie? He said that, right? Yeah, if Kojima said it, then come on, that this movie's got to have some kind of merit to it.
Well, the movie was fun. The story was just kind of like, just your, typical monsters coming out of the ocean, and that we have robots that that we just created just to save humanity, save civilization. I guess all the countries, we all became allies and just came together to destroy these monsters. I won't go into really in-depth details about the movie. I mean, I had a good time watching that movie. It was fun. A lot of fighting scenes. It wasn't just one fighting overwhelming scene of just like action. It was spread out into little pieces, and they paced it really well. It was a pretty long movie. I felt like it was like a 2-hour long movie. But yeah, I like Guillermo del Toro, and I like how he created his monsters, and he had different ones. So they weren't all just the same. They all had different personalities, and so did the different robots. But what they're called in the movies are Jaegers, and what are the monsters called? They're called kaiju. So yeah, that was pretty cool. So I just pretty much gave sort of a little review, but I think the next week we have the Wolverine coming out, and I'll be giving another little review on that. And then that's all I got for myself today. Project Justice and Rival School.
Okay, it's already filming, so whenever you're ready, just pick one up.
Alright, so we got the last 3 games we're going to talk about for Capcom. I guess the first one I really want to talk about, because I really don't know anything about it, is Project Justice.
Yeah, it's me again showing off my collection. Project Justice. It's a sequel to Rival Schools that was released on the PlayStation. A really awesome game. It's not very difficult to pick up and play. It's an interesting fighter. It's a 3D fighter, by the way. You have team up abilities such as calling up your friend, and they'll do like this one impressive combo.
Is that like a tag team kind of fight game?
It's not a tag team. You can switch between characters once the round ends, but after that, you're on your own.
Mm-hmm.
Has a nice little story left on a bit of a cliffhanger. If you hear me, Capcom, please make a sequel to this. This is a really fun game. Anyone looking to buy this game, it's gonna fetch near the $88, $90 mark, close to $100.
If you're not, shop around. See if you can find it like at a pawn shop or even at a swap meet. But beware of resellers, because they go on eBay prices, and then eBay prices are out of the roof. It's just way too much. So look for someone who just doesn't really know about gaming. That'll sell it for like $5 to $10 or $20.
Yeah, this is a Dreamcast exclusive, so beware. I'm not sure if you could tell, but Dreamcast.
Does this game have any notable fighters that we know of now?
Batsu, he made an appearance on Tatsunoko vs. Capcom. And I think that's and what's the name? Kiyosuke?
I'm sure there's other notable characters, but maybe not enough that we know about.
Nah. Kiyosuke made an appearance on in Capcom vs. MK2. And that's about it. Really good game. Tough.
We'll get some footage pretty soon.
Yeah.
David's ordering a VGA 2 component cape transfer. So.
Yeah, I would like to put footage on, but
it will be. We'll have footage on all 3 games coming up pretty soon. And,
eventually, yeah.
Yeah, no, it will happen. And then another game I want to talk about is Cannon Spike. The characters I always see off the bat is Charlie, Guyu's brother, and
Cammy.
Where's she at? Cammy. There you go. So I don't know about anything about this game.
Okay, originally, this is a kind of a shooter game. Like this and Project Justice. It was released on a Naomi 2 arcade board. It's a really fun shooter, overhead shooter. You play as various Capcom characters such as Arthur from Ghouls and Ghosts, Charlie and Cammy from Street Fighter. Even Mega Man makes an appearance.
Mega Man?
Just regular
Mega Man Legends form, or?
No, just regular Mega Man.
Your original Blue Bomber?
Original Blue Bomber. Really fun game. Like Project Justice, it is kind of difficult to find.
Another one, yeah.
Yeah.
Swap Me, pawn shops, guys.
Yeah, and because it was released on a Naomi arcade board, it's a Dreamcast exclusive. Extremely difficult. This is one of the harder Dreamcast games to find.
Next to Children and Adam and X-Men.
That was a Saturn game.
Oh, Saturn, but those are another difficult ones to find.
Yeah, but no, it's if you could find it for a good price,
pick it up.
Pick it up.
Mm-hmm. That of course, if it's not completely wrecked and scratched.
Yeah.
But just a memorabilia or just for a collection, just buy it just to have everything. but always find yourself a loose copy somehow. The last game I do know a little bit of, I did play it back in the day at Family Fun. They only had it there for a short time because they constantly change games. But this is Rival Schools, and I already see it's Batsu. But other than that, I really don't know main story about this game.
Yeah, this is the first of the series. It was released on the Sony N2, or I don't know. It's an arcade board based off the PlayStation. And I had eventually got a PlayStation release. This game is somewhat uncommon, kind of hard to find.
Not that many people know about that game.
Yeah, this game, it's a fighter. It's a 3D fighter. It's like Project Justice. It's kind of easy to pick up and play. Sakura from Street Fighter Alpha makes an appearance.
Oh, nice.
She's a PlayStation exclusive, I believe. I'm not. I gotta look into that. The story is someone is kidnapping students from various schools, and the kids who know how to fight
pretty much come together
and fight and try to figure out what's going on.
Kind of a basic storyline, but
yeah. This did see a upgraded release in Japan. They call it Rival Schools 1.5. It had 2 additional characters. That never made a U.S. release.
But we can get an import.
You could
what system?
PlayStation.
PlayStation. Okay. Maybe there's. Capcom needs to not forget about their other IPs and other franchises like these 2 games. But mainly, this is another one that's people do remember is Rival Schools, so they can give us like a collection or a remastered version online, whatever, and I'd buy it.
Or at least put a PSN version.
Yeah, no, there you go, PSN. Oh, speaking of PSN, yesterday came out, which was Capcom vs. SNK 2, which came out on the PlayStation Network under the PS2 classic titles. It doesn't have online, but still, if you're a fan, buy it, because then you can still play online. You can still play the game. You can play with a fight stick and everything if you have your friends over, have a little tournament. People have been wanting that game. Go support it. Capcom gave it to us, and see if we start buying more of these games, they start putting out, then they'll bring out more stuff like Rival Schools and other games that we want, like DuckTales.
Yeah, like I heard the reason it brought out HD Remix is because Capcom saw the sales for Street Fighter 2 Hyper Fighting on XBLA and decided to work with the Street Fighter franchise again. Nonetheless, this is not that a difficult game to find. I think you can find it for generally $40 to $50.
Which is reasonable, because that game was probably like $49 to $59 when it originally came out on the PlayStation. And
it's almost arcade perfect. Some of the polygons on the characters have been moved around or fiddled with a little bit, but besides that, it's almost arcade perfect. And one more game?
No, I think that's it, unless you just want to talk about that.
Yeah, I'll talk about this. Capcom Classics Mini Mix, released for the Game Boy Advance in 2001.
It's cool for your SP, I believe.
Yeah, it has 3 games: Mighty Final Fight, Strider, and Bionic Commando. Nice little fun game. Generally, you could find these.
I'm sure that's not hard to pick up.
No, I saw this I think you got this for like $10.
Yeah.
And nice little game. If you guys ever consider picking, Bionic Commando on the NES, this actually might be a cheaper alternative, because I usually see that game.
Yeah, or if they have, I don't think they have that on either the PlayStation or XBLA.
No, this was a Game Boy Advance exclusive.
Yeah.
Anyway, this has been Gate Calling All Gamers, Capcom Round 2.
Round 3 is coming up next week. We'll record it next week, and it'll be up after that. But and then after Capcom, we're probably gonna talk about Metal Gear. Or maybe we'll go in depth with King of Fighters. We haven't really talked about King of Fighters.
Yeah, I got a friend that wants to talk
there you go,
about that.
King of Fighters, and then we still got Killer Instinct. And then I'm probably going to throw in some comics in there. Why not? Just a little bit. And then we're still going to talk about games. And then I really want to talk about maybe Marvel vs. Capcom, because then you have like Children of Atom that transformed into X-Men vs. Street Fighter, or Marvel vs. Heroes, and then X-Men vs. Street Fighter, and then so on and so on.
Alright, so this is David.
This is Chris.
Saying it's really hot in here. I'm going to turn this thing off.
And I'm sweating.
Alright.